Good morning, guys. How you doing? This is Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. Today's discussion will surround the recent shooting in Parkland, Florida that left 17 people dead. My business as a criminologist is to work with agencies around the country, to work with universities around the country to come up with solutions to crime problems in the United States. And, we're able to do this because we do research, we work with other entities to come up with feasible solutions to serious crime problems in the United States. Probably the most significant crime problem in the United States has to do with murders. Whether those murders take place in the inner city or whether those murders take place on school property around the country, in terms of the mass murder situations that we've been seeing over the past 19 years. And so today's discussion will be relative to that. And certainly I want you guys to weigh in at the end of the video and leave your comments. And if I can give you more detailed information in the comment section, I will. But I'm sure all of you who subscribe to this channel, who view this channel, have an opinion on why we have government, and it doesn't matter to me who's in office because this has been going on for 19 years. So we all shoulder the responsibility, no matter what side of the aisle, political aisle you happen to be on, we all shoulder the responsibility to protect our young people in the school day for that 6-hour, 8-hour period that they're there 5 days a week. And young folks are looking to us for solutions. I know when I was a young person, I always looked towards adults to ask questions to find out why certain things happen and what can be done to not continue to have those things happen. And so I wanted to take this particular video to discuss that and get some feedback from you guys, because at this point we have a serious problem when we're suffering from the old term, we suffer from too much analysis, which leads to paralysis, where nothing gets done. And it's the same old thing over and over again. So children are going to ask us over and over again, what are you going to do? And they're right to ask us that question, what are we going to do? So I just wanted to give you how I felt personally about certain things when it comes to school shootings and young people dying. Just the history, if you really look at how women, children, and seniors are treated around the world, those women, children, and seniors are probably the most vulnerable people in society. And this is why there are strict laws governing the treatment of women, children, and senior citizens. Around the world, wars are started with no second thought about what's going to happen to the most vulnerable people in society. So when you watch nightly news, or when you go on the internet and you see what's going on around the world, and you see war-torn countries where their leaders have started wars with other countries, and folks are traveling as refugees from country to country, and mostly you're going to see in those caravans of people will be women, children, and old people. And so where is the compassion from leadership in this case here, same case, same situation as far as I'm concerned, where's the compassion for your fellow man or your fellow woman or your fellow child in these cases where no one seems to care at some point what happens to the most vulnerable people in society? And so thousands of people come to the United States every year to get college degrees, to get PhDs, to go back to their countries where they're from, to kind of, expand the country's growth and development through the education that they receive here in the United States. The United States graduates probably some of the most, thousands of people that graduate every single year with intellectual abilities to research, develop, and to come up with solutions to problems. And yet, we still cannot come up with a solution to handgun violence in America. We can't come up with solutions to mass shootings in schools. mass shootings outside of schools that may happen in various venues, whether it's in Las Vegas, or whether it's in a nightclub in Florida. We can't come up with a solution to the problem. And so that is a significant problem. And so, I wanted to do this video because it's a very serious subject matter. The U.S. government has a social contract with you and me to protect and defend against enemies, foreign and domestic, how it reads. So right now, in my estimation, our children are vulnerable to school shootings and protection. And it's our job as a government, as mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and daughters, and extended family to weigh in, because your opinion matters in this case here. It just matters. And so although the children are going to be out there protesting, certainly they need support from adults in every single way to get out there. Because let's face it, the children that are getting out there right now who are protesting shootings in high schools, a lot of them aren't 18, so they can't vote just yet. But you as their mother or father, you guys need to be out there in the front lines too. Because, see, you can make a difference in the polls. Trust me. And so I wanted to discuss that. I thought that was very important. This is a very important topic. And, we have to solve this problem. We just do. So I just wanted to open up with that. And then let's get into the statistics of what we have so far. There have been 25 fatal shootings since Columbine. Columbine was in 1999. So it's roughly been around 19 years. And this last shooting at the Stoneman Douglas High School made number 25. In criminology, we study criminal acts. And in those criminal acts, we want to know why those criminal acts take place and what can be done to further prevent acts in the future. Now, there were 150,000 students attending over 170 primary and secondary schools that have experienced some sort of campus shooting since 1999. Now, the folks who put these numbers together say this. They say that you have to count in domestic violence that goes on campus among students, among family, and among teachers. These things happen. It's not uncommon to have teachers kill one another on a school campus. It's not uncommon to have parents of children come on campus with guns to settle a score with a teacher. It's not uncommon that you have pranksters shooting at schools, drive-by shootings. It's not uncommon that you have single shooting incidents among students, the so-called afternoon fight. Now think about it. Whatever happened to that afternoon fight at 3 o'clock when you get out of school and you have a score to settle with a student, and you just go outside and you just fight until you get too tired or to when a teacher comes and breaks it up. And then the next day you're friends again. The next day you're playing on the same team and sports team. Whatever happened to those days? Because those are the days I remember in the 70s. Again, you guys know I'm 60. But in the 70s, that's how it was. It was unheard of to bring a handgun to school to settle a beef with somebody. You just had, you just went ahead and you fought. And you fought after school. It was always that after school fight at 3 o'clock, so-called after school fight. It never happened. You didn't even fight during school. You fought only after school. At least we had a lot of respect for what was going on during the school hours. So it's just mind-boggling now that we've come from that point of view now to actually ending somebody's life because they talked about you, or because you heard they talked about you, or they just don't like you for whatever reason. It's just mind-boggling to me. And then we count in the incidents again in and around the schools that happen, even on school buses. And last but not least, the mass shootings, the 25 fatal shootings that have happened on campuses since 1999. So the next thing we'll be discussing is what are the impacts, because there's a serious impact here that we have on children. See, if you don't live it, you don't know it. And so in the 70s, I don't know how I would have reacted as a young child in middle school to one of my friends getting killed right in front of me. I don't know what kind of devastating impact that may or may not have had on my life. I can only say that I can only try to understand what these young people are going through when they have to cower in the classroom and experience somebody coming in the classroom and picking children off one at a time with a high-powered weapon. It's just unbelievable. So some of the impacts that these kids have and are going to have will be nightmares, the PTSD syndromes that go on, certainly injuries that they're going to have to recover from. You're going to have students transferring out of schools to different districts to go to school. And unfortunately, parents have to bury their children. You know, I shudder the thought that I would have to bury my child who's 5, 10, or 15 years old because the school system and the government has failed to protect them during the school hours. And so, again, it's the government's job to protect its citizens. It's just that simple. And government can't shy away from that responsibility. So what I wanted to also discuss, too, is, real quick, how it deals with the law in Florida right now. There's a law that talks about actual Florida law is number 79017. Okay. Now, if you didn't know, it's a federal law. Federal. We're not talking about state. It's a federal law to sell a minor a handgun in any retail establishment. They have to be 21 years of age. Okay. However, the law also allows for a 18-year-old to receive a handgun as a weapon. A handgun I'm talking about now, just a handgun. Allows a 18-year-old to receive a handgun as a gift. Okay. And that there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. Okay. But an 18-year-old just can't walk into a store under the federal law and buy a handgun. However, an 18-year-old can buy a high-powered weapon or an assault weapon. Interesting. Now, and I wanted to just go over some things about what an 18-year-old can do in the United States. 18-year-old can join the military and be issued a weapon to fight overseas. An 18-year-old can marry and have kids. 18-year-old can be sued in the United States. An 18-year-old can certainly start serving his prison time because he's considered an adult. An 18-year-old can purchase a shotgun and rifle. And so, you know, I thought that was interesting. Now, at 21, a 21-year-old, 18-year-old can't get a pilot's license, I'm sorry. An 18-year-old can't obtain a concealed weapons permit. An 18-year-old cannot gamble in casinos. An 18-year-old can't drink at 21. And an 18-year-old can't smoke cigarettes, or excuse me, buy cigarettes at 21. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though I was 18, before I was 18, I never smoked cigarettes, but I certainly was drinking. So those things happen before age 21, and I'm sure you all know that. So I just wanted to, you know, bring those things up. And so, you know, this is a video where not only do I talk about the problems, but I'm a person that also talks about some of the solutions. And the solutions that I've come up with have certainly been in collaboration with other people who have given me some solutions of their own. And some of the solutions have been, should we arm teachers in school? Arm means, you know, as well as train teachers to have handguns in school. Should we have armed security every day in school? Should we let's see. Yeah, so our security needs in terms of school need to be bumped up. It's just that simple. Many people are adverse to having metal detectors in school. But, you know, I'm going to tell you, I think at this point, until the government can get a handle on what's going on in America, the students need protection now, not tomorrow or not next year when a law is being filibustered in your local state capital or on a national level, because we just don't know when the next school shooting is going to take place. And since we don't know that, and since just recently reported that the FBI had information on this Parkland school shooting, it just undermines the credibility of certain agencies that are entrusted to be on top of their game to investigate any tip that comes to their doors as taken serious. And so, and this is not the first time that the FBI has botched information gathering and sat on it. You know, we know that if you guys go back and if you really looked at the 9/11 situation, you know, we know that the FBI had to come clean and when because they had received information weeks prior to the Twin Towers incident that in fact, you know, there was on the horizon, on the radar, that there would be attacks in the United States. And so, of course, you know, we wonder, you know, how can this establishment of agents, you know, and these are the cream of the cream of law enforcement, the FBI, they go around the world to investigate crime, that, you know, we at this point here, there's no answer. You know, I heard one of the FBI personnel get on TV and say that, you know, we'll do a better job in the future. Well, damn it, you need to do a better job now, not in the future. We need protection. Our children need protection now. And so that's my position on the whole thing when we talk about law enforcement. And you know, with me having that law enforcement background, you have to be proactive in law enforcement. Okay, granted, there have been a lot of situations that we don't even know about that the FBI and Homeland Security, you know, they have taken care of those situations and we don't even know about it, meaning that there were some things that probably could have happened that did not happen in this country because those law enforcement agents were out in force doing their homework and making sure that they could abate certain serious problems before they even got to be problems where one of us would be killed. So we thank the FBI, we thank the local law enforcement for doing their jobs, okay? But school shootings, it just comes, it's a whole different ball game because we're talking about the killing of young people. And it's always hard on adults when young people are killed. And so, you know, we need to have more proactive. We need to be able to have that information deciphered quickly as possible. And we need to knock on some doors once we get certain information about potential folks who might have some mental issues that quite naturally are going to end up having people killed. So, you know, I wanted to talk about that. And it's a very serious issue when we talk about that. Excuse me. Now, one of the issues that came up in this Parkland shooting, if you go back and you listen to the news reports, they talk about his guardianship, how this young man's mom had died and a couple had taken him in. One of the things that the couple mentioned, particularly the husband, he said that he did not realize that the young man had gotten hold of a key to the gun cabinet. I will tell you, if you can't monitor or have a key, first of all, the only way to get a copy of a key is to be able to have access to the original key. So to me, it's negligence upon that family who took him in, knowing that this young man had some issues, that in fact, there should only be one key. And the only time that cabinet would get open is if you, the guardian, would open that cabinet yourself and then put your key in a place where it could never be copied. Unfortunately, you gave this young man too much latitude, too much leeway. As he said, the guardian said, well, you know, he's done everything that we asked him to do. And I take that to mean that, you know, as long as he's not acting up inside the house and we're not getting too many problems about him, we'll give him free rein to do a lot of things. Unfortunately, that free rein should have never led to him being able to get a copy of a key. Now, that's not saying that that would have stopped the shooting or anything like that. It's just saying that there's a lack of responsibility on my end, that when I hear a guardian or a parent say, well, the kid, I don't know how he got a copy of a key. To me, that's not a good enough excuse. So, you know, as much as I appreciate all people who work in foster care and the jobs they do, it's not an easy job to be a foster parent. But if you're going to take on that role as a foster parent, certainly there's a huge responsibility to make sure, particularly with teenagers, because we know how teenagers are, that we have to be on our game and our P's and Q's when we're dealing with teenagers, because most times when they're trying to get around the system, you have to stop them at every point because they'll come up with a way to get around doing certain things. I used to do it when I was a teenager. My parents told me don't do this and don't do that. Well, I found a way around that eventually. So, you know, they're always trying to devise methods to do certain things. And this is why you have to be, you know, vigilant. That's a good word to use, vigilant, to make sure, particularly when we talk about weapons in the home, that those weapons are kept safe, locked down, until you, as a guardian, open that box. And that's just my point of view on it. Certainly, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, the comment section is there. And I just wanted to bring this out in this discussion because this is a tough one. You know, it's bad enough that we have mass shootings outside of school, as I said before, as I opened up the program with, you know, but here we are now having to protect children, you know, in elementary schools. I'm sure you guys remember the Sandy Hook Elementary School situation. You know, no one wants to see 5, 6-year-olds laying on the ground with bullet holes all in their bodies. No one wants to see that. Excuse me again. And so I opened up this program. There are maybe 2 or 3 pictures of a couple of school shootings just to kind of give you the impact. You know, I'm not one that goes overboard with showing a lot of gory pictures. I just wanted to let you guys know some of the impacts because you can get this information just as readily as I can, you know, about, you know, school shootings and, you know, what they look like, certainly the aftermath, if you will, of certain incidents that go on in the schools. And so right now, this is what we're faced with. We're faced with finding solutions to a huge problem. And this is the only thing we should be on the calendar now over in Congress is how can we find a solution to this problem, and the reaction needs to be now. Again, we cannot wait for legislation to be passed on anything. Schools and school districts need to be proactive today and start locking these schools down during the daytime so there is no entry. And if you got to hire security and it's going to cost the school districts more money, so be it. And I'll leave it at that. My name is Mike McCormick. I'm with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, and I'll wait for your comments. Please make sure if you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so. I've got some things coming up this week that I also want to discuss, and I want you to be part of that discussion and be the first to see these videos. Thanks a lot, guys.